Johannesburg, the Chief Executive Officer of RTMC, the Chairperson of the Board, and members of the Board, and ladies and gentlemen of the media, and officials from the Department of Transport and entities. Let me first start with a disclaimer before some of you come to me and say happy birthday. It's not my birthday today. I was born on the 1st of April. I'm an April Fool person. So on the 1st of April I was born, and when we went to register at the Home Affairs, there was a mix-up there. So that is why my name is Fikile April Mbalula. So that name comes from that particular background. Secondly, I wish to thank you for all your well wishes last week. But secondly, I wish to apologize. It's not just an event. We are running a parallel conference from this event, which is annual. It is a national aviation conference, and it's been conducted virtually. So sorry for coming in late. We had to finish that business, which is not yet finished. From here we will probably go back there or fulfill some of our responsibilities. Today, as we officially release the 2021 Easter Arrive Alive safety statistics, we are conscious of the fact that road crashes affect the poor and vulnerable disproportionately, more than any other group in society. It is this class of people that we generally find walking on freeways in an attempt to access opportunities that are not available in their own residential areas. It is this group that commutes between their homesteads in rural areas and cities in search of opportunities and a better life. Regrettably, many of them die on the roads without realizing their dreams and aspirations. At midnight on Monday, 5th April 2021, we marked the end of our intensified law enforcement Easter campaign. However, the Arrive Alive education and awareness campaign will continue in preparation for the forthcoming Freedom Day and May Day long weekends. Although we have taken a decision to ensure that we make road safety a 365-day business, it is inevitable that we intensify our efforts over the long weekends and when we approach the peak traveling periods such as the festive season and Easter weekend. This is because there is a remarkable rise in traffic volumes during these periods and increase the risk to life and limb of South Africans. Preliminary figures show that we experienced an increase in traffic volumes along major arterial routes leading out of Gauteng and back. The N1 north to Limpopo, the N3 towards KwaZulu-Natal and the N4 towards Mpumalanga were particularly busy. This happened despite the fact that the Easter weekend did not overlap with school holidays this year and religious pilgrimages to major churches that attract masses of the people due to COVID restrictions. The N3 recorded the highest volume of traffic with 1,143 vehicles traveling through various toll gates on this route. The N1, N4 followed with a total of 120, 573 vehicles passing through toll gates between Gauteng, Limpopo, and the Northwest. The N1 South between Gauteng through the Free State to the Western Cape recorded 64,001 vehicles, while 14,864 vehicles were registered on the N2 in KwaZulu-Natal. While the public focus is around the number of fatalities recorded over this period, it is important to make an assessment of the assessment within which these crashes occur and to understand each road user's responsibility. The carnage we continue to experience on our roads is influenced by a number of factors, mostly embedded in human behavior or attitude, vehicle factors, as well as environment on road factors. There are no fatalities on Thursday when traffic volumes reached the peak. However, they spiked on Friday between 18 hours and 22 hours when people had reached their destinations. We're indulging in weekend festivities that include alcohol consumption. One of the major disturbing elements emerging from the information gathered thus far is the vulnerability of the pedestrians and passengers. At least 35% of people who died on the roads are pedestrians. Their vulnerability manifests itself in the following ways: drinking and walking, including jaywalking, crossing the road at dangerous points, informal settlements situated alongside busy roads and intersections, like here in the N1. If you drive between the N1 going down to Bloemfontein, there are people who think that from the side of Orange Farm, it is a quick catch to cross over the road. And sometimes they get fatalities out of that because the road is quite busy and the cars are moving quite faster. Walking on and crossing of highways and failure to wear visible clothing at night. Another observation we have made is that palisade fences and walls intended to stop pedestrians from entering freeways are being vandalized and broken down, increasing risk of pedestrian fatalities. This has been the case on the stretch of road where we are today. Like I've said, if you look at the N1 going down to Bloemfontein on Orange Farm, that place, I mean, the fencing of it was long time ago vandalized. But if you also cross the other side of Limpopo, N1, going to Limpopo on the side of Hammanskraal, there is a crossover there, but people most of the time undermine it. And even here, if you look, there is a crossover just behind you. And that shows connecting the communities from this side to that other side. But most of the time, it gets to be ignored because you think that you can beat the speed of the cars. But when you are drunk, alcohol can distort your speed because you will think that you are faster and it catch up with you because alcohol have actually taken over. This has been the case on the stretch of roads where we are in today. The figures for this past Easter long weekend indicate that our efforts in law enforcement are yielding some positive results. They continue to yield positive results. They also demonstrate that our messages are reaching the targeted audience. And the majority of road users are heeding our call to make road safety their personal responsibility. But over and above that, the biggest challenge for us is to rely on law enforcement. And that is why you see we have introduced body cams to undermine fraudulent activities and corruption on the part of police officers taking bribes. But at the same time, the police not occupying the areas of deployment and visibility on the freeways and the highways in our country. According to the preliminary figures, 189 crashes were recorded, resulting in 235 fatalities nationwide. The provincial breakdown is as follows: Eastern Cape, 22 crashes and 27 fatalities, meaning 27 people died in the whole of the Eastern Cape this Easter. Free State, we had 8 crashes and 13 fatalities. Gauteng, we had 30 crashes and 36 fatalities. KwaZulu-Natal, we had 42 crashes and 54 fatalities. Limpopo, we had 27 crashes and 34 fatalities. Mpumalanga, we had 15 crashes and 18 fatalities. Northern Cape, we had 6 crashes and 7 fatalities. Northwest, we had 15 crashes and 20 fatalities. Western Cape, we had 24 crashes and 26 fatalities. For purpose of proper analysis, we have compared the 2021 figures to the 2019 Easter statistics. We have not taken the 2020 figures into consideration because that was an abnormal period characterized by a hard lockdown which restricted inter-provincial travel and movement between districts. We compare apples with apples and bananas with bananas. We can't compare apples with bananas because in that instance will make a serious distortion. So you will have seen that in terms of the NCCC and cabinet decision that people were allowed to travel inter-provincial, and we have spoken about the volumes on our roads that you would have yourselves witnessed during this period, and therefore that means traveling was high, even though the religious pilgrimages did not actually happen because of the decreased numbers, but traveling on the road and local tourism and visiting families was on a high. Therefore, in 2019, which is our comparison of 2020 to 2019, there were 193 crashes, which resulted in 260 fatalities. This means that we have made headway in reducing the number of crashes in general and fatalities in particular. You will have seen that in the provinces, the number of crashes have gone down during this period, and the number of fatalities, province by province breakdown during this weekend also went down. The number of crashes have been reduced by 2.1%, while fatalities came down by 9.6%. This is despite the fact that there is growth in both the population size in general and the vehicle population size in particular. The Northern Cape, Free State, KwaZulu-Natal and Northwest recorded increases in fatalities, while declines were recorded in all other 5 provinces. It is however concerning to note that the number of pedestrians who died on the roads this year was higher compared to 2019. Pedestrian fatalities increased by 5%, from 30% to 35% compared to the 2019. We have observed that about 6% of pedestrian fatal crashes occurred between midnight and 2 a.m. in the morning, when people were moving around in violation of COVID-19 curfew. Passenger fatalities declined from 38% to 34%, as there were not major crashes involving 5 or more deaths in a single accident. Deaths among motor vehicle drivers and cyclists remained unchanged. They remain around 30% and 1% respectively. These results reflect the success of our relentless and tireless campaign of 365 days, wherein we have made road safety a constant project and not a once-off exercise targeted only for peak periods. But this also is about law enforcement intervention. So if law enforcement officers are failing us on the ground, it means the driver is escaping, like that, because he or she knows that I can get drunk, there is no law enforcement, and even if I'm caught, there will not be any consequences. So that is why we introduced the innovation of body cams to record, as you have seen with the launch. When the Deputy Minister launched the campaign, you will have seen the introduction of the body cams. So that is going to be intensified going forward as part of our efforts, so that as and when you are stopped as a motorist, the body cam will register that, and should there be any other thing that seek to undermine that, it will be registered in the ops room, and there will be consequences for that officer who would have not followed the law to the latter. The decline in both crashes and fatalities recorded is an indication that we're making progress towards achieving the 2030 global target of having road fatalities. Naysayers have been quick to suggest that South Africa is at the bottom of the class for road safety. These suggestions have relied on limited data and questionable research methodology, bringing to question the credibility of their findings. I've seen in the social media reports over the weekend that were saying there were 70 crashes. You may be mixing crashes with fatalities, because once you have recorded crashes, you must then begin to say how many people have died on the road. So if you transmit that information as it is, not backed up by data, you will then confuse the whole society about the whole question about fatalities on the road. These suggestions relied on limited data and questionable research methodology, bringing to question the credibility of their findings. Others have been quick to point out empirical evidence that suggests that we are far from the bottom of the class. I must, however, hasten that we are still a long way from where we want to be. But the strides we continue to make and will undoubtedly yield tangible results. In doing so, we must not claim easy victories. We must record progress, but at the same time, we must equally record that there is still a lot of work that needs to be done to bring these numbers down. It is through collaboration with civil society and embracing behavioral change by road users that will make a telling difference. Our relative success can be attributed to early preparations with education and awareness campaigns in communities, increased visibility of law enforcement officers, stakeholder involvement, and a high-profile media campaign. No doubt that the media plays a pivotal role in terms of bringing awareness. But nobody on the road can say is not aware about the road safety campaign in South Africa today. If the law does not bite, this will be business as usual. And that is why we are embarked on efforts to basically tighten our laws to ensure that the laws do bite and the road users and motorists are held accountable in this particular regard. You will go to the US because you like to compare South Africa with the United States, whereas we live in a third world and we're a developing country. Because in our country we've got both the features of a developed world and a developing nation, we tend to confuse. You will hear South Africans speaking, in Australia things are not done like this. To reach the standards of Australia, we will have to take strides to get there. And because of our own nature, of our own economy, and all of that. So in this particular instance, if you go to these developed nations, you will never find motorists being reckless and drinking and driving. Why? Because the laws do bite. So we need to compare ourselves with Botswana. You will not drink and drive in Botswana. Yeah, just next door in Botswana. Tsamo tlhapelwa go koloing go Botswana o tla e ba itse sentle. A gona motho tlhapelwa mo koloing go Botswana because Botswana's laws are tight. The same as criminality in Botswana. You cannot just... You remember what happened with some of our artists who went to Botswana and committed a culpable homicide. We nearly lost them because Botswana is tough, very tough when it comes to law enforcement. As much as it's a small economy, but we've got a lot to learn from Botswana before we compare ourselves with America and the United Kingdom. Just next door here. They're doing a superb job when it comes to law enforcement. Our resolved success, like we said, can be attributed to education and a high-profile media campaign. There were 336 roadblocks conducted this Easter. 178,553 vehicles were stopped and checked. 32,070 traffic fines were issued. 823 vehicles were discontinued. 782 vehicles were impounded. Up until we get to a stage that when you are drunk behind the vehicle, it will lead you to jail, we will never see change. Up until you know that if you are drunk and you are found by the traffic officers, it's not just a fine. We'll continue to see this carnage. That driving behind the wheel can lead you to 6 months in jail. We will never change the paradigm that we're serious about this. Because it is known, you get drunk, you blow, and then if you are above this percentage, you get a fine, and that is it. Only if you kill a person, you'll be charged with culpable homicide, and then you can land in jail. That's when it is been taken serious. So our laws must bite. 438 motorists were arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol. 112 motorists were arrested for excessive speeding. 28 motorists were arrested for inconsiderate, reckless and negligent driving. And 2 law enforcement officers, a traffic officer and a police captain, were arrested for bribery and corruption. The high number of vehicles discontinued, drunken driving and speeding arrests made reflect the success of the use of technology to improve traffic policy. The mobile vehicle testing stations assisted in the identification and removal from the roads of vehicles that could potentially have caused major crashes. The evidential breath alcohol testing technology helped to arrest motorists who were driving under the influence of alcohol, while high-speed vehicles fitted with high-tech vehicle identification systems ensured the arrest of those who were driving at an excessive speed. The collective and collaborative efforts of our stakeholders, such as Santaco, Distel, and Aware.org, have paid off remarkably. The fact that there were no major crashes involving minibus vehicles is a vehicle of the success of Operation Hlokomela conducted by the taxi industry. The Road Traffic Management Corporation, RTMC, working with provinces and municipalities, will ensure the full deployment and utilization of technology, including the body cameras, to improve traffic policing and fighting corruption. The RTMC will also ensure that the National Road Traffic Law Enforcement Code is implemented to bring about a greater level of uniformity in the way that traffic law enforcers operate. Somebody was asking me on Twitter a question about when was the tender of body cams issued and all of that. It was a demonstration of where we are going. So if you want and you want to eat, I think you must watch the space when Makosini and the municipalities are going to embark on this in terms of body cams, and you've got the capacity you want to compete. Minister does not issue. I only issue policy direction. I don't issue tenders. Policy direction is that police officers in the country must be fitted with body cams so as to minimize corruption. And I've seen that it does wonders in the developing countries that I've visited, and I've seen police officers, not only traffic officers, police officers fitted with body cams. And those of you who are on DSTV, full bouquet, and then you will see that there is a crime watch program there. You see police officers with body cams. So you don't have to travel to America. You can see it there on DSTV. Full bouquet, full body cams officers. What does it do to reducing criminality and corruption among officers? On behalf of the shareholders committee, comprising all transport and community safety MECs in all the provinces, I congratulate all our law enforcement officers in all spheres of government, the South African Police Service, emergency medical services, our private sector partners, and road safety activists for a job well done. The nation is indebted to you for your tireless efforts, and the media for spreading the word and even highlighting things that sometimes they take time to get to us in terms of accidents and fatalities. We also wish to thank the media who have partnered with us in spreading the word and encouraging responsible behavior. Please continue working with us to help fight this scourge. Most of all, thank you to the millions of South African road users who headed the message of road safety, and we urge them to continue to be road safety ambassadors. To those who are still refusing to comply, your days are numbered. It is just a matter of time before we catch you and remove you from our roads, for you are a danger to yourselves and society at large. We express our sincere and heartfelt condolences to the families of those who lost their lives, and a speedy recovery to those who sustained injuries. We believe that some of these accidents, from those who have survived, we know that they could have been avoided if we took responsibility as drivers on the road by behaving responsibly. When you are tired, taking long trips, know that you have to relax. When you are drunk, walk away from a vehicle. Even if it's a Ferrari, you want to show people that you have come from Johannesburg. You have worked very hard. You've got a Ferrari. In the villages, you want to show them. Please, once you arrive in the village safe and sound, leave it. Just park it in front for showcase. And then only drive when you are sober. That's what responsible use is all about. We express our gratitude to everybody. Together we are striving to make South African roads safer. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Mbalula.